So the question of when to practice, is practice a bad thing? How much should I practice? What practice should I do? I get it. I get the questions, and I understand that up until now, my videos haven't been based around practice at all. In fact, I don't think I've made a video on how to do anything, and that's for good reason. But I want people to know that I will start be coming out with some sort of guided meditations and the things that I looked into that really allowed this realization and the illusion to be seen through. That's all this is. I want this video to be very concise, because awakening is very, very simple, and it's the fact that it's simple that it is difficult. If we can summarize what practice is, or what this illusion is, in one phrase, it would just be suffering is the identification with a separate self. This illusion of separation, as if there's an entity walking through an external world, a subject and object division, that is it. It's just this separation illusion, and this sense of being a self, a separate self. So if we know that, then all that practice comes to be, and I know lots of people say there's no such thing as practice, it's all for the separate self, but until it's very obvious that that's the case, then practice. If it feels like there is a separate self here, inquire into that separate self, contemplate the sensations of direct experience. Until that's obvious, then this needs to be looked into through an act of surrender, through an act of curious investigation. So what to do? Well, it's all about inquiry, and every single action, I'd say, even in the world, every single practice leads down to just investigating your sense of self. Who are you really? Who do you really represent? What is this? Why do I feel separate? Why do I feel like an entity, an observer, trying to find this subject, trying to find this separation, trying to find a boundary, trying to find where you end? It all comes down to just this misbelief that you are just this limited body. That's it. But we make it so complicated. But at the same time, there's also a multitude of ways we can look into this sense of self, the sense of self in the body, the sense of self in thought, the visual field where we feel separate. These are all branches on the tree of suffering, but the root of the suffering that keeps growing it back is this sense of being separate as a self. And when we look for this sense of self anywhere to be found, we can't find it. And that's only down to you to investigate and look for this sense of self. But I will be coming out with some guided meditations and guided contemplations for this, just to really streamline the approach. And this isn't a goal-orientated thing. This isn't something we're trying to achieve. If anything, the first 5 to 10 minutes of anything, anytime we sit down, I usually just try and bring ourselves to a place of equanimity where you really try and stop figuring out anything, and just realize that this is a curious investigation with no goal, just trying to find what's really here. Where am I really? Without trying to get out of suffering. This is not trying to get away from suffering. We're now investigating suffering. So yeah, that really what practice is. And this can be done on the body, the visual field, the hearing sense, in thought, and everywhere. So yeah, if anyone asks me a question about practice and how much to practice, or when to practice, or what to do, I'll send them to this video. And yeah, it just comes down to that. A sense of investigating who you are. I can't simplify it enough. But what becomes complex is allowing these senses of separation, these resistances, to come up to the surface, to really see them in all aspects of experience, until this realization of no self permeates all experience out in the world as well.